Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we explore the strengths we have because of our sensitivity and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there. To the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers, how the heck are you? I know that I've gotten that reverse in a couple of episodes, and when I listen back, I'm like, oh, that's not the right order. I think I told you I had a cheat sheet and I lost it. You'd think after all these years, 7 years, I know what I say, but I don't. I also wanted to apologize that if you listen regularly on Tuesdays when the episodes drop on November 25th, I forgot to release an episode. And I remembered in the afternoon, so it came out late, and I do apologize about that. I think Alex and I are going to start trying to release the other podcast, Unapologetically AuDHD, on the Tuesdays that this podcast doesn't air. So what am I going to talk about today? I had a whole list of notes that I took. I'm not going to call Thanksgiving Thanksgiving anymore. I'm going to refer to it as Harvest Feast. But I don't think I want to talk about that today. I really don't want to talk about anything. I'm feeling kind of Grinchy. But I think I'm just going to talk about change and some of the transitions that have been happening at home and how I'm navigating them and just the things that are going on. And my intention in sharing these things is because I think around the holidays, this stuff is really common, and I don't know that we talk about it. And I don't know that we model and know that it's okay to have bumps and hiccups and upsets, and how do we manage? So where to start? I don't think I've talked to you because I haven't recorded in a while. Shoot, now I'm feeling unsure about what I talked about in the last episode. Well, if this is a repeat, it's just going to have to be a repeat. I am recording this the very end of November, and you're not going to hear it until a couple weeks into December. I think I told you that my son and his wife moved in. It meant having to shuffle things. I have stuff in every part of the house, and we had to do a lot of cleaning out. There's still a little bit more that we need to do, but I just love how it's going. And I think I told you too that the day after they moved in, my son had already asked my husband and I if it was okay if my daughter-in-law's mother wanted to give her a kitten from a litter that she had met the kittens and fell in love with one of the kittens. And we said yes. So we've had a kitten in the house, which has been delightful. And then the things that go along with having a kitten, and that's fine. And we kind of got in our little rhythm. They moved in on a Saturday. And that Thursday, my husband left for a week to go to Laughlin. So the kids and I kind of had a week to get into our own rhythm. And then my husband came back, and that was another shift of just readjusting the dynamic. And then on the Saturday after my husband got back, we celebrated Harvest Feast, and we had a full house. My other son and his girlfriend came down, and it was a very full weekend. And I may tell you a little bit about that. And then on Sunday night, my son and his girlfriend left. And then I think, on Tuesday, my daughter-in-law left to go back home for a week. And then my son had duty on Thanksgiving. So we saw him Wednesday night, and then he left. So they're gone for a couple of days, and she took the kitten with her. And the adjustments to having people here, people gone, some people here, some people not here, the kitten not here. The change is really hard for me. The adjustments are hard. And it's not that I have a preference of one or the other, but just my nervous system adjusting to all of that change has been really challenging. And the time leading up to celebrating the Harvest Feast was very stressful for me. And I did an amazing job of communicating. And with the kids here, especially that week that my husband was gone, I was just very active and doing lots of stuff with the kids. And I overdid it the day that we celebrated Harvest Feast and took the next day off. The kids went out and did their own thing, and I stayed home and rested and had a very low-key week. But when it came to Thursday, when everybody else was celebrating, I don't know what happened. I think I just had a shutdown, and I stayed in pajamas all day. I didn't shower. I felt like I was mopey and bored. And there's nothing wrong if you shower or don't shower. I just tend to feel better about myself when I do it. It's not a value judgment on what anybody else is choosing to do. But I just felt like I moped all day and I did not really take responsibility for the fact that I probably would have been done better if I had made plans. And I'm finding that I'm just very low energy. I seem to be sleeping more at night. Obviously didn't go to Aquafit on Thursday. Today's Saturday. Aquafit was canceled. So I'm not getting the movement that kind of helps me stay regulated and balanced. So those things have been different. And then last night, one of my sons and I just had this very uncomfortable discussion. And it's interesting because we went through this big thing last night, and really it had nothing to do with me except for the fact that my husband made a decision with my son about a gift, didn't talk to me about it. And I just was frustrated because I wasn't consulted on the gift and what we're spending. The money is kind of secondary. And I just had a reaction, and I told my son I was having a reaction, but then he called and he just kind of started to get into it with me. And then he didn't want me to say anything about money. And then, of course, that activated my PDA. And I'm thinking, you're not the boss of me. You can't tell me. And he's like, fine, I'll just pay for everything. He just went off the rails, and I tried to end the conversation. We did end up working it out. But then it was interesting that he called today about something else, and I could see where he was trying to get his foot in the door again. I suspect that this is some of the anxiety and OCD, and this is how it comes. And I stopped it. I would not let it come up. But I told him last night when he called to do repair work, it was frustrating because like none of this had anything to do with me. And my husband and I were just walking the dogs when my son called. And then I found this information out that my husband had made this decision without me having information. And I had a reaction. I wasn't upset. I just was having a reaction. And then my son got really upset. And I don't feel like I'm being very clear, but I told my son it's challenging because then I got very dysregulated. And I shared with my husband that I felt frustrated and angry that he made this decision, didn't talk to me about it, just so that I'm kind of kept in the loop. I think part of what I'm seeing with my autism is having information about things feels very important to me. And when I don't, that's difficult. And this morning, I noticed my husband was cleaning out. We have a file that we keep our credit card bills in. And he didn't tell me he was going to go through it. And he was throwing things out. And you've heard me talk about my don't touch my stuff, don't move my stuff. I decided instead of saying anything and getting angry to just observe what was going on. And it's that lack of control. And the truth is, in this file, he found probably 30 credit cards that had been expired. I often just throw credit cards into this file. I don't even take them out of the envelope. And so he threw out things that, we were shredding it and we're disposing of it properly. He was doing me a favor. And so I was grateful that I didn't jump down his throat. I've really been wondering if part of my OCD is kind of kept at bay because he tippy-toes around. I don't know. I will talk to him. But in this shift with my son and daughter-in-law moving in, we shuffled bedrooms. And so in the front part of the house, there's a bedroom, a bathroom, and another bedroom. And then in the back part of the house is a walk-through room and the largest room in the house where the kids are. So my husband and I are now within breathing distance of each other. And like the other morning, the doors, both of our doors were open, and he coughed and then he was clearing his throat, and it woke me up, and it was a little disruptive. And so how do you navigate sharing space with people? And I don't want him to feel like he has to tippy-toe around, and he tends to be very apologetic when these things happen. So it's something that I need to talk to him about, but I don't think that these things are uncommon. I think that these are very common things. And I'm really trying to look at what are the things that dysregulate me. And getting inconsistent information is also challenging, that it doesn't even matter. We were talking about the Christmas tree, and because of the kitten, we're trying to decide, do we want to get a full tree? Do we want to get a smaller tree where the kitten can't get into it? And I had a conversation with my husband privately, and I thought that he said we should get a small tree. And then when we were with my daughter-in-law, he said we should get a full tree. And so the three of us, my daughter-in-law, my husband, and I were in the car, and I was kind of stewing about this inconsistency. And I thought, do I say something? Do I not say something? Is this going to cause discomfort? And so I just prefaced it by saying, I'm finding that I really struggle with inconsistent information. So I want to bring something up. And my husband said that he didn't say that we were going to get a small tree. He just said that was an option. And it's very possible that that's what he said. And I just misunderstood that. And then, of course, there's this deadly awkward silence in the van afterwards. And I thought, see, I shouldn't have said anything. We recovered, it went on, and it was fine. It's interesting, and it's a lot. And what I noticed is the dynamic when my son and daughter-in-law and I are home, there's one kind of rhythm and dynamic. And then when my husband enters, the dynamic shifts. And then having my son and his girlfriend home, there's this other dynamic that happens between the kids and my husband. And so it's just been very interesting. And I feel like I'm the only one that sees it. I think often my daughter-in-law is aware of it, and we will often talk. And that feels very reassuring because I often feel very, very alone. And even with this idea of really wanting to not celebrate Thanksgiving because of everything that it represents, I love the idea of people gathering and sharing food. And because I don't cook very much, it's a big deal that we all cook together. Alex and I had recorded on the other podcast, Unapologetically AuDHD, about what is problematic about Thanksgiving. And I said, I don't feel like I could talk about this with my family. It's very possible that the women, I call them girls because I think of them in terms of being kids, but they're adults, they're women. I suspect that they're far more sensitive to it. They may not be, I don't know. And so I feel like I would be the one who's kind of bringing everybody down, that when I bring up things that are my values and beliefs that feel like they're progressive and humanitarian and things that we should care about, I often get pushback from my husband and kids that they're very much like, well, it's always been done this way, and why do we have to change? And I've started to push back more, but I just don't know that I definitely on that day was not going to bring something up with them. And that makes me feel sad that I'm not standing up for what my values are, and that I just don't want the pushback from my family. I've always felt so different as it is. And I guess it's an opportunity for me to be a role model. I feel a little bit vulnerable sharing this with you, especially for those listeners who really understand the depths of how awful Thanksgiving is and genocide. And here I am afraid to have a little conflict in my family, but this is what my truth is in this moment. And it's sometimes challenging. So anyways, I think maybe what I'm going to do is transition and talk a little bit about some of the things that went on prior to the harvest feast and the day of. In retrospect, I overdid it. I will do some things very differently next year. And part of it was just lovely. On the Friday night beforehand, all the kids were here. I tasked my son and his wife. My son loves this recipe that I have for the green bean casserole, and you actually make your own onion rings for it. It's a very time-consuming and tedious job, and they've been very gracious to take this job. But we have Sonos speaker in the kitchen, and they were playing country music, and my other son and his girlfriend were in there. Normally at about 9, Steve and I head off to our bedrooms. I often don't fall asleep till 10:30 or so, but that's my quiet downtime. But we stayed up till after 10 because the kids were in the kitchen, and then they started asking everybody for their requests, and we were singing and dancing, and it was noisy, but it was a joyful sound. And it's really lovely to have launched kids and to have them want to come back and to celebrate being in our home. But I had started feeling anxious about the day coming up. I was feeling tension because my daughter-in-law was going to be making some dishes, having space in the kitchen. My son smokes a turkey, and then I've got some dishes to make. And so I had talked to my daughter-in-law and my son's girlfriend, I think the night before, because the guys went out. My son decided that we weren't going to have enough of the green bean casserole. I normally double it, and he had me quadruple it, which we all knew would be too much. And it is, and everybody's gone, and we have more green bean casserole than we can manage. So we knew it, but we just let him do his thing. Anyways, I talked to the girls and said, I'm having kind of this overall big fear going on that really doesn't relate to you. And then I have specifics of what I can what's tangible information that you can do something with? How can I share this information with you so that it works? Because often when I talk about my global anxiety, people feel like they have to do something about it. And it's just kind of what I share so that I can stay grounded and connected. And my daughter-in-law asked for the tangible information first. And so I asked, would you be okay in the morning preparing your recipes in the kitchen at my mom's house, because she was going to be using my mom's oven? And she said she'd been thinking about that and was planning to do that. So that was fine. And I just said, I feel like I'm right on the edge. And for the most part, since y'all moved in, I feel like it's all been really good. There are minor things that are not even worth mentioning that have been going on, but the experience has been mostly positive. And I'd been feeling like I'd been getting sick. I was run down. I was tired. I wasn't sleeping well. And so all of a sudden, my brain just wants to focus on this small piece that has not been going well and make that the reality. And I just had to remind myself, I'm not feeling well. I'm tired. I'm run down. Let's wait until I'm feeling better and we're over this event. And if those things are still coming up and are true, then we'll deal with them. But it felt like it was my OCD or a way of focusing on the things that weren't working. And it didn't feel like that's really what the truth was. It's just like, kind of like what happened with my son yesterday. Like he just wanted to land on something because things felt uncomfortable, as opposed to saying, I'm feeling uncomfortable and I need to sit with the dysregulation. So I was able to tell them that. And I said, probably what that's going to look like is, if I need help in the kitchen, I'd like to ask for some help so that I'm not doing things by myself. But I also don't like a lot of extra people in the kitchen if they don't need to be in the kitchen. They said they understood it. And I said, and I have this fear that like I'm going to lose my shirt and I'm going to say things that I don't mean. And it's not that I have anything specific in mind. It's just that the tension and the expectation of having as many people in the house. And we invited another couple over. So we were having 9, where normally we have maybe 5, 6 people. Not a huge difference, but I don't cook, I don't entertain. So for me, it's a big deal. And I was hoping too that just saying it would help, because often just naming what we're concerned about kind of puts it out there. And it's not like it's like if we're holding a beach ball underwater that we say, I'm really afraid I'm going to let go and the beach ball is going to pop up under the water, as opposed to not saying it and just getting more and more tense about keeping the beach ball under the water. And so that really seemed to help. And I also told this other couple that was coming over, I've told you about them. It's a couple that they want to hear what my inside voice is. They know I'm autistic. And so I texted them and just said, I just want to let you know I'm having a lot of anxiety about tomorrow. I still want you to come. I'm just letting you know that I'm feeling afraid that I'm going to be tense and that I get very tasky and I don't do social and tasky at the same time. They said, thank you, no worries. And then that day, Steve and I were doing some last minute shopping at Costco, and the husband and his wife were also at another Costco, and they wanted to see if we needed something for the following day. But he started off by joking, saying, I'm going to be bringing a lot of people to your house. And I had to stop him and say, that's not funny. When I'm feeling anxious and I'm telling you that it's feeling people-y, and then you joke about it being people-y, like that doesn't work. We need to stop. And he was very understanding, very respectful, and he did. And he had called to see if we needed some extra things and was very, very kind. But that's a way that I took care of myself. The following day when we were cooking, this couple was supposed to come over at a certain time and the turkey was taking longer. And I don't think that I realized how long it takes to make this green bean dish and how many hours it takes to stand at the stove. And I'm hypermobile. I probably have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so the standing was really hurting my back. And I had asked my husband to have them postpone coming over for a little bit. That's another way that I took care of myself, because it just didn't feel like I could handle more people in the house. And in the morning, when my son was getting the turkey prepared, my other son makes this noise, and my son had asked him, can you not do that today? Like, that's just too much for me. It was great modeling. And so there's somebody else in the house that also makes a sound that is challenging to deal with. But in that moment, in that day, in the kitchen, which is all tile, they made this sound. And so I asked them, for today, would it be okay to not make that noise? And then I was very concerned that I had hurt their feelings. And I had checked with somebody who would have known, and they said, do you want me to ask again? And I'm like, oh, you already asked, it was okay. I'm like, that's my wanting reassurance. And I thought if they asked once and we're told that it was okay, then I'm just going to have to trust and let that go. And these are ways that we can get more worked up in situations instead of trusting the information that we're giving. And then when this couple got here, I told them, like, I need you to not be in the kitchen right now. There are too many people. There's too much stuff going on. And they were totally fine with that. I also used my loop earplugs in the kitchen at certain times when there were a lot of people in there and the talking was very loud. It echoes. Some people have really loud voices. And I also use the time in the kitchen to listen to music that I love that makes me happy. And there's something about being in my own rhythm when I'm cooking and there's not noise and distractions, that it can actually be very meditative and very peaceful. And I did that. We all ate our meal. We had not had dessert yet. And we were going out that night, all of us. And I just needed to go lie down. So I told two people that I'd had it. I was tapped out and I was going to go lie down. And I did. And that was perfect. And they had dessert. They did their thing. The couple left. The couple had suggested a drone show to us here in San Diego. There's classical music and it's coordinated with drones with colors that kind of sync to the music and create these beautiful scenes. And initially I thought it was stupid. And then I thought it might be fun. And we all decided to go. So that was 8 of us going. We squeezed into the van. All of us were tired. I don't think any of us wanted to go. We got stuck in traffic and it took us, what should have been like a 30-minute ride, took us probably an hour and 15 minutes. It was an awful lot of pain from all the standing and then all the sitting. And I just kept my mouth shut, but I was feeling really angry at the husband who had suggested this. And we've talked about they want to hear my inside voices and I just couldn't get into it. It was on the ground, the seating that we got, but then we found out after that we bought the tickets that you couldn't bring chairs. But because we'd been sitting for so long, we decided we were just going to stand anyways. And I was already dreading the ride home, thinking we're going to be stuck in traffic again, and this is stupid, and I'm tired, and why did we do this on the same day, and we're going to get home late, and blah, blah, blah. But I just kept my mouth shut. And then we got there, and the classical music was playing, and it was beautiful. And because I was standing, I had this opportunity to feel the music in my body and to move to the music. Some of the people in my group were chatting and talking, which was very annoying. So the wife and I stepped away into a place where it was more quiet. And I allowed myself to feel the music in my body. And it was stimming. It was moving to the sound of this classical music, watching the drones. I took some beautiful footage. It really was lovely. And it was something that I would not have expected. When I was feeling physically uncomfortable, for me, I know some of y'all hate rating scales on a scale of 1 to 10. I know some of y'all hate it. So if you don't like it, don't do this. But it helps me to validate where I'm at because I knew I was uncomfortable. And I thought, I'm like 1 out of 10, where 10 is the worst. Like I'm at a 7 right now. My neck is really uncomfortable. My back hurts. I did a little bit of stretching and moving around, but I think that listening to the music and just kind of allowing my body to move to the music helps somewhat. And it really ended up being a really unique experience that I would not have experienced and did not expect it to be that satisfying, especially when I was tired and crabby in the car and thinking this was a really stupid idea. On the ride home, I felt more relaxed and able to talk. And I asked the husband, do you want to hear about my inside voice? He's like, sure. And I explained everything to him. And I said, I was really mad at you. I thought this was a really stupid idea. And then, of course, I had to ask, like, how was that for you? And he was fine. And when we came home, they came in and we visited a little bit. They were fine with my feedback. And before he left, I said, I think I'm needing a little bit of reassurance. How was it for you today that, I took care of myself? I told you how I felt. And he's like, I love it. I love when you do that. We had a really lovely hug and they left. And it's so affirming that we've created this support around us. And I've gotten to the point where I'm just going to do what I need to do to take care of myself, that I went to lie down on my bed and rested when I needed to. And when I was really uncomfortable in the car, I just kept my mouth shut because I felt like I was just going to whine and complain. And that was the best thing that I could do for myself. There was also some joking in the van that really felt not okay with me. And at one point, one of the people was one of my children. So I had a private talk with my adult child. and explained why it felt like that wasn't okay and how I saw that behavior. And they really didn't understand why that wasn't okay. And if you've been a listener for a long time, we need to stop this. We need to name what kind of joking is not okay. There were other people that were joking that they're not my children. It's not my responsibility. But the people that it was okay for me to talk to, I did talk about why I didn't think that those things were okay. And I think that made it harder when I was physically uncomfortable and irritable and tired and just kind of checking out at what some of this conversation was about. But I really do want to speak my truth more than I have in the past. And then the next day, I don't know why I'm feeling so concerned I talked to y'all about this. The next day, everybody was planning on going to the zoo, and my son's new girlfriend was really concerned when I said I probably wasn't going to go. And she had messaged me and we were talking, and she's like, can we pick something else that you'd rather do? We're just coming down. I want to spend time with you. And I had explained that quite often my family likes to do things that I'm not interested in. And I've really been okay with them doing the activity. And I explained that I was probably going to feel pretty peopled out on Saturday and that I needed that time alone to recover. I was concerned that I'd feel like I missed out on some fun. They were gone for a really long time. My son and his wife took their own car and went for part of the time, but not all of it. But I felt really good that I had allowed myself to rest and do what I needed to do. And then it's funny, when they came home, the girlfriend fell asleep on the couch. I mean, everybody was exhausted. It was just too much. My son and daughter-in-law came home and they took a nap. It was a lot for everybody. And I think learning that we can take time for ourselves and we can rest and we can say no and we don't have to do everything is really important for us to be able to take care of ourselves. I guess my question to you is, coming into some of these holidays, for some of them, you're already in them, depending on what you celebrate, are there things that you can do to take care of yourself and honor your need? And maybe that means bringing a separate car. Maybe it means not going. Maybe it means not hosting so that you can leave, wearing things that are comfortable, bringing food that you can eat, slowing down, trying to simplify things. And if you get upset and have conflict, it's not a bad thing when it happens. Would I choose it? Do I want it? Of course not. But I think being able to have hard conversations and work through conflict is also really important. So I guess I would encourage you to think about, what is it that, if there were no right or wrong, what is it that you're wanting for this holiday season? And how close to that can you get? And to honor yourself and to trust that people will take care of themselves. I understand that I'm very blessed to have the family that I have and the support that I have, and that is not what everybody has. Some people don't have people close to them. They want that connection. They don't have it. Some people have families that they either don't talk to or are very problematic. So I'm very aware of that. And I think I often may be insensitive to that. So I just want to name that. I think that's all I have, everybody. I hope you are doing well and managing. If you're interested in working with me, I have a couple spots right now. You can reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive.com. If you suspect you're autistic, if you are thinking you're autistic, if you've been diagnosed, if you've self-identified, that's something we can certainly work on and talk about. If you're struggling with relationships or work or parenting or boundaries, communication, honoring your neurodivergence, understanding what that is. In relationships, it can be challenging because we have different styles. Those are all things I can help you with. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. You can reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive@gmail.com. Remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's how your brain is wired. You have a right to honor yourself during this busy time. You have a right to take time. You have a right to be irritable and crabby and tired. You have a right to say no, to be rested, to feel joy, to enjoy yourself. I think that's it. Have a great day.